Alaikum, dear listener. You are listening to Legal Show with Bond Adams on Radio Seerah. And today we're going to talk about a conveyancing transaction. My name is Samia Haq, and together with my colleague Rabia Murtaza, we're going to take you through to whole legal conveyancing transaction.
Okay. So as Samia introduced that away from Bond Adams Solicitors, today we're just going to be giving an insight on how we deal with property transactions. And it's going to be more of a question and answer, just to let you know how long the property transaction takes, the hurdles, how we deal with it, and the fees. So, yes.
So, Rabia, how long does a normal property transaction take from start to finish?
A normal freehold transaction, I would say, takes around 2 to 3 months. This is all depending on when you are instructed. If you So we'll give an example of a purchase. So obviously when you've been instructed, the whole transaction takes off once we receive the contract pack from the fellow solicitors. Obviously once that's in, we are then obligated to instruct the searches on the property that we are buying for the client. At the same time, we obviously keep an eye out for the mortgage offer. If the mortgage offer is in, if the client's happy with it, and when the mortgage offer is due to expire. In the meanwhile, obviously, we look at the searches, so we get the local search, environmental search, and the water search. Just to let you know, I am referring to residential purchase only. Depending on all of that, obviously, we raise inquiries, send it off to fellow solicitors, and then obviously they send it off to their client, get all the answers that we need, and get back to us. And then around that time, that's when we start discussing the completion dates.
Okay, and how much does it normally cost for a typical transaction?
Well, our fees at the moment for a standalone purchase, freehold, I would say is £775 plus VAT. Obviously, if there's any additional gift that you're receiving, or if it's a leasehold, more complex transaction, obviously we discuss separate fees for that client. But obviously, these are the prices for a standalone purchase.
Okay, and when people say exchange and completion, what's the difference between exchange and completion? Are they the same things?
So, exchange, obviously, is something that tends to take place before.
Is that when you sort of like sign the contract and legally bind?
Both parties, solicitors, get their clients signed up at this point. So we have the contract and the TR1 signed by them and any mortgage deed. On the day of exchange, obviously, both solicitors will go through the contract, read through the terms, the deposit that's been agreed, the purchase price, and we will sign and date that, and obviously date it, time it. We also agree to a completion date on that date. So once you exchange the contract, you do become binding to that property.
Mm-hmm.
If either party then fails to complete on the completion date, there is always a liability or penalty that you have to give. The penalty is normally based on Bank of England interest, which is the 4%,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously any interest gets added on top of that every day. At the point of exchange date, the contract becomes binding, and on completion date is when the funds are all sent over to the relevant parties, and we have completed on the transaction, and obviously the keys have been handed over to the new buyers.
So, can the exchange and completion happen simultaneously, or does it have a gap in between?
To avoid any risk, most solicitors people tend to go and do a simultaneous exchange and complete on the same day. So it's all up to each client, however they want to proceed. If they want to exchange prior to completion, then obviously we do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do have lending involved, we do recommend get the bank's confirmation that the completion funds will be released for a certain date, and then exchange. Without the confirmation, we obviously would not proceed with the exchange.
And as I understand it from our conversation, so what you're saying that at exchange, the property is not actually mine. So once you've completed, that's when I get the keys?
Yeah, that's when you get the keys. So on exchange, we will only just go through the contract and say, okay, the contract is now binding. We discuss the completion date. And on the completion date is when you are the legal owner of the property and the full funds are then transferred to the seller solicitors.
Okay, thank you. Just to remind our listeners, you are listening to Legal Show with Bond Adams. At Bond Adams, we offer legal advice on immigration matters, on conveyancing, family matters, wills and probate, and our contact telephone number is 0116 280 85 285 8080. So, Rabia, if I'm buying a property, do I have to do any searches?
If you are getting lending, what I mean by that, if you get a mortgage on the property, then most banks would want you to go and get searches on the property. Obviously, if the client doesn't want to go ahead with the searches to save time, then there is always an indemnity policy that we can take out, which is really protecting the bank majority of the time than the client. To say, obviously, if anything's to go wrong tomorrow, any issues on the property, the bank have this indemnity policy that they can rely on. But it is very unlikely that we go for the indemnity policy. If it's a high purchase price, obviously new build or complex transaction, we do tend to go and get the searches out. There is an exception when there's that transfer of equity or remortgage.
Mm-hmm.
That is where the banks do get a bit more flexible and do allow the indemnity policies to be put in place.
So it is always safe to do the searches, but if you can't do the searches, then you can apply for an indemnity policy.
We have had situations where the client has said, obviously, we don't want searches, we want to go for the indemnity policy. The bank has also agreed, but later on the clients will call and say, look, there's a roofing issue, or there's been flooding on the property.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do? And obviously at that point we cannot really do anything. We advise you to go ahead
to do the searches,
get a survey done. So yes, to avoid any issues in the future and just to fully understand your property, we do recommend each client to go and get to instruct us to take the searches on the property.
And what are those searches? Do they have like local authority search, anything to do with flooding?
The main searches that we look at, again, this is all on residential, just to clarify. The three main searches that we look at is the local search. The local search will reveal if there's been any work done on the property, if there's enough
Searches?
Yes, so obviously the main part of the conveyancing for every firm is the due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
So at the initial, when we take the initial instructions from the client, obviously we require all the buyers and sellers, their ID, proof of address. We carry out ID checks, bank checks, fraud checks. So yeah, that is a big part of the due diligence that we do have to carry out.
Okay, and one last question. When do I get my property deeds? So when do you actually transfer the property onto my name once?
Okay.
Does that happen straight after completion?
No, that is a really good question, because as soon as we do complete on a purchase, we do tend to get the client on the phone the next day and say, when do we get a title deeds? So obviously once we've completed a transaction, we wait for the transfer form to come through from the seller solicitors as well. At the point when we've got all the documents, we lodge the application with Land Registry to transfer the title to the new buyers. From there on, it's all up to Land Registry on how long they take. Sometimes it can take weeks, months. I've had a transaction where we've been waiting over a year and still pushing them to send the deeds through. So yes, I would like to clarify to everyone that it is all up to Land Registry on how long they take for the deeds to be transferred to your name. And to clarify, you are the legal owner of the property at that on completion date. You are the legal owner, but some people are hesitant to see that until their name isn't on the title deed.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're not the owner, but obviously that is not the case. And again, it's all up to Land Registry on how long they take.
Thank you, Rabia. That's very useful. Just to remind our listeners again, you are listening to Legal Show with Bond Adams. We provide clear legal advice on immigration, on conveyancing, litigation matters, wills and probate, and our contact telephone number is 0116 285 8080.
You can also also contact myself and Samia if you obviously have any inquiries that you would like to speak about. You can contact Samia on our email address at samia@bondadams.com and myself on rabia@bondadams.com.
So, Rabia, just a bit more about you to our listeners. What made you come into law?
Obviously, we all inspired by the TV shows and whatnot. But yeah, so obviously I did study college, law at college, carried on with it at uni, and obviously ended up in this profession doing conveyancing. So yeah, that's how I ended up here. And I know that Sammy's been here with us just over a year now. How are you finding your feet in this property field?
Oh, I'm absolutely loving it. It's really interesting. Every day is a different day. We get clients coming to us with different issues, with different problems, with their property purchases, with their sales, and it's just amazing that no 2 days are the same. So yeah, I really look forward to coming to work each and every day. And I've been wanting to get into law for a long time, and yeah. Just coming and working for Bond Adams.
Say that if conveyancing for every day is the same, but believe me, each client makes each case different and more interesting. So yes.
And we have a really big team working with us at Bond Adams doing conveyancing. So again, if you need any help, any advice in buying or selling your property, please get in touch with us. Our telephone number is 01162 858 8080.